My name is Tom Korn. I'm the Senior Vice President of Security Products at VMware. Probably the next big area for us is around data. Encryption is an incredibly useful mechanism to protect data and to protect applications and traffic from the underlying infrastructure, which is very, very important because we're moving into an era where we don't always directly manage, own, or control the physical infrastructure. And encryption is a great tool for that, but it's also an incredibly complex tool to do that when we have to implement it at an infrastructural level. So the kinds of things we're working on is the ability to drag and drop encryption onto an application, onto a microsegment. And all the complexity of it is really removed. That, I think, will be very, very powerful. And it really serves to extend and reinforce that boundary, that preventive boundary around an application, around a regulatory scope. But the area that I think is perhaps even a bigger new area for us is about expanding from prevention into detection and response. Right? Those are the two halves of security. I prevent whatever I can, and then I detect and respond to what I can't. Detection and response today is very challenging because there's very little black and white. Most of it is a gray area. We tend to have a model that's very focused on the negative. How do I understand what bad behavior looks like? Well, that's an enormously big problem set that's constantly changing. It is very difficult to have authoritative information about what was supposed to be or protected spaces to measure. And we have very difficult to automate response because things can happen in so many different environments, and there are so many different pieces of infrastructure you'd need to integrate and interface with. There's an enormous opportunity to leverage virtualization and cloud to rethink that, just like micro-segmentation really rethought the prevention side. We have the opportunity to understand when an application is deployed on top of virtualization, on top of the cloud, what was it as an intended state? What was its intended behavior? We have the ability to have protected positions to do security from, to monitor what's really happening against that. We have the ability to use virtualization and cloud to create automated mechanisms for response, quarantining, bringing up gold images of machines, inserting full packet capture, inserting logging. Those kinds of things are suddenly much simpler to do. And the key is, it's the same central point, which is how do we focus security onto the application, on the application we're ultimately trying to protect. That application-centric detection and response, I think will be a huge step forward for us, and not just for customers directly. And that's what I think is the biggest eye-opener. It's not, yes, we have to secure virtualization, we have to secure the cloud, but the real leap forward is when we start using virtualization and cloud to secure things. That's the enormous opportunity. For folks who are interested in learning more, we're planning an incredibly exciting session at the RSA conference, Thursday, February 16th at 1:30. It's called How Virtualization and Cloud Could Fundamentally Transform Security. And we're going to talk about a bit more detail about these issues. We're going to talk about how organizations, what are the techniques and approaches organizations are using today? What's the cutting edge today? And we're also going to start getting into futures and directions so people can start to get some insight into where some of this is going.